to see you all. Thank you all for coming. I think this is going to be our best and biggest Connect yet. And just remember that this is about collaboration, communication, and engineering. We're going to do more engineering this week than I think we've done in any previous Connect. We've got more space allocated for hacking. We've got more time allocated to open source community sessions and having groups working in the hacking rooms on everything they want to do this week. So I think it's going to be great. So I just wanted to look back a little bit. For those of you who don't know, Linaro is now 4 years old. We started in 2010 as a member-driven software engineering company dedicated to working on improving the open source community and the open source technology for the ARM ecosystem. The initial members were ARM, IBM, who've always supported open source and who remain a community member to this day, and 4 SoC vendors originally from the mobile space. And on day one, 20 engineers started in Linaro on just 2 projects. Firstly, the GCC toolchain, which has now turned into, I think, the dominant toolchain that's used across the entire ARM industry, and on kernel consolidation, which over the following year led to the adoption of device tree for the first time for the ARM architecture, which has led to significant improvements across the whole ecosystem. And that was 4 years ago. So today, we're 28 members, including still ARM and IBM. There are 16 SoC vendors who are members of Linaro, 5 open source companies, and 5 end users who are particularly driving their interest in leveraging the ARM architecture into their products. We have over 200 open source software engineers working on the ARM ecosystem around the world. And we're the equivalent of a $50 million software company after only 4 years and growing rapidly. The company is formed into a number of different structures overseen by the Technical Steering Committee, who control the work that we do and deliver requirements for core development in the kernel, in power management, in security and virtualization, in the platform engineering team, and in the key product technologies that we provide. And over the last couple of years, we've moved into working on open source in an increasing number of segments as ARM, the ARM architecture and ARM devices, and the rate of innovation you're seeing in the ARM ecosystem has moved ARM more into new segments, including the enterprise group focusing on servers, the digital home group on set-top box, digital TV, the mobile group working obviously in the mobile space that's increasing itself, and the networking group focusing on networking equipment. So when we started 4 years ago, we had 2 projects. Today, we're working on all of these areas. In the last 6 months, we have touched all of these projects and made significant contributions to many of these projects. And that would not be possible without not only Linaro's engineers and assignees from all our members, but all of the other work that that's led to through the community. We are having a significant impact on improving open source across the entire ecosystem. And it just would not be possible without the initial idea that led to Linaro being formed and without this collaborative engineering effort that's happening between all of the members and the community who are investing in the efforts that we're leading. So thank you, everybody. I want to touch on some of the key projects that we're working on over the next couple of years. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but it's the visible tip. Some of these projects are very visible in the community and therefore define some of the view that the market has of Linaro. One is extensive changes that we are working with other architectures and the scheduler maintainers to put into the mainline Linux scheduler to deal with the future variety of not only ARM SoCs, but also other architecture SoCs. And this is about making the scheduler more aware of what the underlying topology of the hardware that Linux is running on. And ultimately, it doesn't matter whether it's a symmetric multiprocessor, whether it's an architecture like Big Little, or whether it's actually starting to be completely heterogeneous and use other forms of processing. This is going to be a big issue and have a big impact on all of us over the next couple of years. And that work is well underway. ARM, Linaro, and our members are participating in it. And it's important that everybody contributes to this. The open source community is about working together. No one solution is necessarily right. The process is working together to improve this technology for everybody. We're also clearly working a lot on Android optimization, particularly around 64-bit SoCs. OpenJDK, where a group, including Andrew Haley of Red Hat and Ed Neville in Linaro, have made huge steps in delivering a OpenJDK implementation for ARM v8 with full enterprise C1 and C2 JITs that are showing extremely good performance and have led to the delivery of not only OpenJDK, but also Java from Oracle. I'm also going to touch on Open Data Plane, which is the defining project of the networking group, and on some work that LHG is doing on security and creating a fully open source implementation of secure media playback, which can then be leveraged by multiple SoC vendors. And of course, Linaro also is putting increasing focus onto the products that you're using, the toolchain itself, the Linaro stable kernel, and the Lava continuous integration and cloud test platform that's a completely open source product and starting to see wide adoption not only in our members, but also outside Linaro. LNG is doing something really interesting, which is working on a project called Open Data Plane. In 2013, the LNG members got together and said, we have to have a completely open source, cross-platform framework to create APIs for the data plane in networking equipment. Already, this team has delivered 2 versions, and the first 1.0 version will come out by the end of this year. Our members are working primarily on the ARM architecture within Linaro, but our members and others are already implementing this technology on ARM, on x86 using DPDK, on the MIPS and the PowerPC architectures. And this is a true example of cross-industry collaboration and is becoming recognized as an increasingly important part of the software-defined networking story and will become an underpinning of projects that are outside open collaborative projects like Open Daylight. So there's going to be a lot of discussion this week in the networking group and a lot of work going on to move this project forward. But it's pretty exciting, and I'd particularly like to recognize Raj Murali, who is the director of the Linaro networking group, who's tirelessly working to make this happen with some of the end users who are actually in the networking group. Another project that we've been working on hard over the last year that I'd like to particularly call out is the Open Portable Trusted Execution Environment. This is a full open source implementation of a trusted execution environment for ARM's Trust Zone and is now available today on GitHub at that address you see at the bottom of this slide. It's open and available to all ARM SoC vendors under a BSD license, and participation and contributions are welcome from everybody. We encourage you to look at it. 1 or 2 members who have looked at it have said it's a very full, complete, and impressively engineered piece of technology. It comes out of a huge effort by ST to open source this product, which was derived from work they originally did in the mobile world. And they've been working tirelessly with Linaro's security group to help get this project into the open source community. So a big thank you for ST to making it happen, and a lot of kudos to the Linaro security group who've helped bring this project into the open source community. And on that GitHub site, you'll find the client, the Linux drivers, and then the actual secure OS itself. Please participate in this project and contribute to it, whether you're a Linaro member or not. The Linaro stable kernel, a baseline for member ARM products. We're actually now in our second year of the Linaro stable kernel. And this means that the first version will, over the next few months, depending on input from the technical steering committee, move from having new functionality put into it to more of a maintenance function over the next year. And the focus will move on to the next long-term supported kernel from kernel.org, which is 3.14. The fact that 3.10 is used within Android and AOSP at the moment means that we may need to continue under the direction of the TSC to add functionality for a little bit longer than we were originally expecting. But that's a sign of our success, because it means that our members care about it and are using it. And we encourage you all to continue to do that. There are also versions of the stable kernel for the segment groups. So there's a version for Android for the mobile group, a version with the real-time patch set for the networking group, and a version packaged for the RDK that is used as the underpinning, the kernel is used as the underpinning of the RDK for the digital home group. For the first time in Connect history, we're going to do some live demos on stage. Unfortunately, one of the demos, a key piece of hardware required for the demo, is actually stuck somewhere in San Jose, and we're not quite sure where. But the fact that the missing piece is a piece of 4K hardware, and that we cannot do the demo on a low resolution monitor, is actually, I think, a really interesting sign. And I can assure you, you are going to see, or I am assured, you're going to see this demonstration later in the week during the various demonstrations that LHG are going to do and we're going to have on the demonstration day on Friday. I'm going to ask Mark Rogotsky, who's the director of the Linaro Digital Home Group, to come up and talk a little bit about what he's going to demonstrate later this week. Mark.
All right, thanks, George. Good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a snafu with a component, as George mentioned, not available for our live demo, but we have a whole host of demos that are going to be available on Friday during the Demo Friday session. We have 3 member boards. We have 4 separate demos. I just wanted to take a step back real quickly and remind everyone that LHG was officially launched in May of this year, and since that time, all of the members have been collaborating together on several initiatives. And so most of the focus right now has been on the Linux-based RDK, and this is the foundation for the ARM SoC work on digital set-top boxes. So LHG has implemented changes to the streaming framework architecture, as well as innovations to the web rendering engine, and as well as abstractions to the graphics layer. So we've done a lot of work in the Chromium embedded framework area, a lot of work in the GStreamer OpenMax integration, a lot of work in various other areas, the Weston compositor over the Wayland windowing protocol. So these are the kinds of things that we're going to see on Friday. So one of the demo we were hoping to have today, but we'll have later in the week, was on a member hardware board, the ST Microelectronics B2120 board. It's 4K graphics with 1080p video shown simultaneously. It's based on a set-top platform, which is a dual-core ARM Cortex-A9 with a graphics processing unit of a quad-core Mali 400. All of the work we do in LHG is based on the Linaro stable kernel. We're currently at version 3.10. All of the builds that we do are open embedded Yocto. We're on the DAISY branch at this point. And as I mentioned, we are moving from the X11 windowing system. We're looking at EGL. We're looking at the Weston compositor over the Wayland windowing system. So that's one of the demos, as well as a host of others on the Chromium embedded framework and integrations of OpenMax with GStreamer. So again, I think I've jumped ahead. reminder, everyone, Friday, LHG Demo Day. There's a lot to see, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mark. I'd now like to introduce Tom Gould, who's the director of the Linaro Mobile Group, and Tom's going to talk a little bit about what he's going to show you today.
Thank you, George. So on behalf of the Linaro Mobile Group, I am particularly excited to demonstrate to you today Android on ARMv8 on the Juno development platform. This is a really exciting thing to show. If you've been watching the Linaro website ever since June, July, August, you'll notice that Linaro has made available reference builds of Android for Juno. And so today, we actually have a Juno board. I definitely must extend my deepest appreciations to ARM for hand-carrying one of their Juno boards so that we could have this demo. And as you might say, Elvis is in the building and he happens to be in the back. So what do we have here? Well, we have Android, and in this case, it's Android running with the AOSP master. So this is something that if you did a repo sync of the Android tip, you'd have the exact same source code. We are running with the Linaro stable-based kernel, of course, version 3.10. We have Mali support, so we have accelerated 3D graphics. We are using the trusted firmware, so it's UEFI, and all of this was built with Linaro's 4.9 GCC. So now I'd like to introduce Kazim Mohammed, who of course is the LMG tech lead, and he's standing in the back to do the demo. So Kazim, take it away. You don't have to, you go ahead and keep watching here because it's on the screen right here.
I'm very happy and excited to have this demo run for you. So, good morning everyone first of all, and welcome to Linaro Connect. So, I have this hardware from ARM. This is the Juno platform for ARMv8, having ARM Cortex A57 and A53 with Mali integrated. So, I have connected HDMI, and there is a good panel that Yuan brought for this demo especially. So, I have Android already booted on this platform. So you can see here, and just for this demo, I'm going to reboot this platform. So this device is going for reboot. Okay. While this is rebooting, so I'll take this opportunity to take few names. So at Linaro, thanks to Ryan, Tixi, John Sturls, Mark Brown, and Android engineering team, Amit Pundir, Yonkin, Vishal and Vero, Yakub and Kanta from project management. So thanks a lot, and definitely the ARM team under William, Dave Butcher, Sharban, Kevin, Ashok, and definitely the Google Android team, and for putting this together. This is really a great product on having ARMv8 running Android. So a round of applause for these guys, please. So they're going to change the way Android mobile is going to be. Well, this is still booting. So there are few LMG sessions that we are running today and across the week. So there are a lot of ARMv8 sessions that we are running. There is engineering team from ARM and Linaro who are at various sessions and also at hacking sessions. So please use this opportunity to connect with them and please attend the sessions, and please don't forget to attend one of the important sessions today on building this AOSP community around ARMv8 Android. So it's today in the noon. Let me see if this works. So I just happened to find one of my favorite demos. So anybody is interested in playing? Let me see if I can shoot it in the one shot. Yes, I did. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Kazim. George.
Thanks, Tom. Well done. Thanks, Kazim. Definitely room for optimization there. I think we need to get that boot time sped up a bit. So LMG is doing great work, and our relationship with Google is strengthening. We've done a lot of work with Google, as some of you know. There was a blog posting recently about work we've been doing with QEMU that's helped Google enormously in terms of delivering the SDK for Android, and we're continuing to support them in that work. So, moving on, we have one further demonstration, except my clicker's stopped clicking, which is from LEG. And so I'd like to invite the director of the Linaro Enterprise Group working on the ARM server ecosystem, Andrea Gallo, to show you what he's got to demonstrate. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, George. Our demo is running on 3 nodes. One node is the master, is the cloud master, is running OpenStack, and it's running the JCloud plugin with Jenkins, and it's deploying Java test regression test, the JTrag, on the other 2 nodes, so that we can run multiple Java tests in parallel. The interesting thing is that all this is running on ARM 64-bit machines, and if you think about it, we're running Java tests on ARM, so we're using the OpenJDK 8 JIT. And Jenkins itself is based on Java, so we are running again Java on the controller node. And this is running OpenStack. So this demo is integrating together all the technologies that we have been working on for the last 2 years, OpenJDK, OpenStack, and it's showing the collaboration amongst Linaro members and the collaboration with Red Hat and Canonical. OpenJDK is a key project in cooperation with Red Hat, and OpenStack has seen incredible progress thanks to the collaboration with HP and Canonical. The demo is running on 3 Applied Micro Mustang boards. They are running Ubuntu Trusty. I will hand over now to Andrew McDermott, technical leader for our cloud architecture work.
So as Andrea mentioned, there are 3 Mustang boards on the desk here. The first one is the Jenkins master, and you can see here the dashboard. What I've done for the demo is I've created a subset of the JTrag test that we run on a daily basis. There are approximately 18,000 tests in JTrag, so we're not going to run all of those here. But you can see that we have this matrix, which is really convenient. As part of the build that we do for OpenJDK, we build both the server and the client environments. And in the OpenJDK tree, there is the hotspot, lang clause, and JDK regression suites. So we have this matrix which spans out nicely that we can spin up each of the configurations on a separate node. For the demo, I've been running this in a loop, so you can see that every 5 minutes this has been started. It's not running at the moment. But if we catch the time right in a few minutes, maybe it will do. So if we go back to the dashboard. So we can see down the left-hand side here that there's the master node, and this is running OpenJDK 8. And then on each of these images, which are virtual machines spawned via the JCloud plugin to OpenStack, they have a version of OpenJDK 8 as well. So throughout this, we're actually using OpenJDK 8 as much as possible for dog fooding, if you like. If we look at the OpenStack dashboard, we can see here that the other 2 boards on the desk here are Mustang 02 and Mustang 03. And we've actually provisioned those as OpenStack compute nodes. And if we look at the overall project, we can see that we've timed out. We can see that we're using some of the CPUs available from these 2 other boards. And if we look a little bit further down, we can see that these are the images which have been spawned by Jenkins to get the work done for the JTREG tests. One other thing I wanted to point out is that we've been running OpenJDK8 and a Jenkins master in the Cambridge lab for about 6 months now, and the tests that we do are pushed from an ARM server, and you can see the results here on openjdk.linaro.org. Okay.
Thank you, Andrew. And if you want to know more about ARM servers, please join us on Wednesday at the Server Ecosystem Day. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andrea. Okay, so that was our first live demos. We got through 2 out of 3 of them, so that's not bad. Well done, everybody. So I just wanted to touch a little bit on a couple of industry trends and talk a little bit about some of the things that are happening over the next, we expect, 12 months. It's pretty obvious that the ARM architecture is really starting to extend into segments other than mobile, ranging from IoT at one end of the scale all the way up to high-end servers. And this is really driven by something I've talked about before, which is the accelerating rate of innovation within the ARM partnership. There are more and more devices coming, there's more and more differentiation and innovation, and that's what draws end customers to the ARM architecture, because they're faced with more choice than ever before, and therefore ultimately lower costs to deliver more performance. But this also presents huge software challenges to us all. The SoC complexity and the speed of innovation is placing increasing demands on the delivery of standardized software that will work across multiple SoCs. And one of the really interesting trends is that the distributions themselves and end customers are starting to recognize that successful open source software depends on SoC support in the upstream kernel and other projects. And if you look at some of the projects like the Chrome project, obviously the server ecosystem, because this is where it's come from, are demanding and requiring SoC vendors to have upstream support for their SoCs. And increasingly, if you don't work upstream, which historically many of the mobile vendors haven't needed to do, you become uncompetitive for certain projects. And I see that trend increasing and accelerating over the next year or two. We're working with a lot of the open source projects from an operating system and a distribution point of view. Obviously, with the Linux Foundation and with the Yocto project, we've been using that not only in LHG, but we're also using it in the networking group. We're starting to engage with the Chrome project and doing work on Chrome. And Google at Google I/O this year announced that they're bringing out 3 versions of Android in the next release, in addition to the standard mobile version, so Android Wear, Android TV, and Android Auto. And I think that's going to significantly affect the segment groups and the work that they do to embrace this new platform. And finally, of course, in the server space, we have Ubuntu, Fedora, Red Hat, and in the networking group, companies like Enea who are working on distributions and software upstream for the networking equipment marketplace. And a feature of this is that collaboration is everywhere. Right, Linaro is working in the ARM ecosystem, but is now increasingly working in other ecosystems as well. There are 2 real categories. One is where we do most of our work is in the SoC-dependent projects, so things like the kernel itself and the associated projects, things like AOSP for Android, OpenJDK for Java, but we're also seeing increasing interest in our members in demonstrating and optimizing other major industry projects that we're starting to affect. And these are built with the same collaborative open source software model. Typically they're architecture independent, but there are huge opportunities to optimize some of these projects for the ARM architecture. Part of this clearly is Linaro itself is not only acting as collaboration for the ARM ecosystem, but is also acting in the wider open source community. And I'm very pleased that since we last got together, we have become formally a silver member of the Linux Foundation, not on behalf of our members, but as Linaro, because as Linaro, we are together with all of the members who are also members of the Linux Foundation, increasing the amount of influence and activity that we're generating around the ARM architecture in the open source community. And I'd particularly like to congratulate Grant Likely, stand-up Grant, who's in the front row here. He was recently elected as the chair of the Linux Foundation Technical Advisory Board and will represent the TAB on the Linux Foundation Board of Directors. Grant has worked tirelessly, as many of you know, in the office of the CTO, particularly on boot architecture, and I'm very, very pleased for him that all his efforts have been recognized by his peers. So congratulations, Grant. We today also welcome the Linux Foundation as a Linaro community member alongside IBM. And we believe that there are a lot of common threads between what the Linux Foundation does and what Linaro as a software engineering organization does, and we expect to see increasing collaboration between the two organizations. We also ourselves are expecting to continue to grow, reflecting the importance of open source software in the industry in which we all work. And our members are going to come not only from the SoC vendor space, but also from increased, we think, membership from distributions and key open source software providers and from end users. So I'm now going to do something that we haven't done before, which is we're going to talk a little bit about some things that we're not going to share today. So think of this as trailers in the movie theatre. One of the things we're working on is a server cluster based on ARM v8 architecture hardware to accelerate the ability for ISVs to deliver deployment-ready software to the ARM server and other enterprise markets. So what we want to do is help the open source community, operating system vendors, and ISVs work together on pre-publicly available hardware from our members to be able to test and validate and benchmark their software running on early access hardware. So Linaro is not going into the cloud business. We're not going to compete with Amazon, but what we want to do is enable software developers, particularly ISVs, to get early access to unannounced hardware. We're initially doing this with Applied Micro and with ARM, and we're deploying a cluster of servers that will be available on a by-request basis to independent software vendors who want to validate and test on ARM hardware. I also expect other members to add their hardware to this facility, providing a one-stop place where ISV vendors can run their software and verify that it works across multiple Linaro member hardware platforms. And we welcome participation by any Linaro member into this deployment facility. You do need to provide us actual real 1U or more U servers that we can put in racks and not just development boards. This is for devices that are ready to deploy that aren't necessarily available publicly yet. And it will give software developers a heads up and an advantage on being able to validate that their software works before you actually ship publicly. Works cross-platform. The second initiative is the Linaro Community Board Program. One of the things that Linaro wants to do is help get hardware earlier into developer hands. it's been very frustrating in some ways that Linaro engineers have not all got ARMv8 platforms on their desks. We do have a number of Junos, but as most of you know, they're big development boards like many SoC vendors use for bring up of their own SoCs, and they're not really suitable for widely seeding across a big software community. More hardware would help us. And so what Linaro is doing about this is we're going to be working with our members to create a community-oriented website to encourage software developers from the community to work with Linaro on optimization of software, particularly for ARMv8. By Next Connect, my goal is to get at least one low-cost ARMv8 board, and preferably more than one, on every Linaro engineer's desk. And not only Linaro engineer, every ARM software engineer's desk. Everybody should have ARMv8 hardware by Next Connect. And this will help also drive work that John Mad Dog Hall has been doing over the last 12 months in preparing for engagement on a much wider basis with global universities to put programs in place to help them have a platform for getting access to low-cost hardware and optimizing software specifically for ARMv8. We think this is a really exciting project. We're looking forward to getting this hardware into not only our hands, but also to all of our members' hands. This is a work in progress. We're not ready to talk completely publicly about it, other than the fact that I'm already talking publicly about it. But if you want more information, please come and talk to me or one of the other Linaro executive team. The third project that we're working on was referred to by Joe earlier. I'm delighted that we have Paul Eremenko, who is the head of Project ARA at Google ATAP here, to talk to us about this innovative, disruptive, and really fascinating project to work on. So please welcome Paul Eremenko from Google.